Hello, my wonderful viewers, and welcome to another episode of Betty Adams Overanalyzes. Today we're going to be taking a spoiler-free look at Chapter 61 of Kaiju number 8. And this chapter has the promise of so many delightful moments of trauma coming. Okay, what am I talking about? So, one thing that you expect from a good story is for it to mess up your feelings. Even a simple battle shown in manga, you're expecting at the very least adrenaline. But in any good story, you expect some sort of emotional trauma. And that is what this chapter offers. Just all sorts of emotional trauma. Now, there won't be any spoilers in this section. This is the spoiler-free review. But I'm still going to give you some time to click away. You can go check out the links below the video to get one of my books, Humans Are Weird, I Have the Data, and Humans Are Weird, We Took a Vote. Short Stories of Human Absurdity. So, Kaiju number 8, Chapter 61. As way back at the beginning of this series, when we saw everybody gathering, I think it was in Chapter 4 at Tachikawa Base for the application, we get introduced to a host of main characters. Now, these are all the best of the best. These were the elite in the groups that they came from, and they all are to one degree or another get trounced or humiliated in the application arc. First off, we have Kokoru, this tiny little girl, and she looks young and she looks petite, and whether you're a man or a woman, that's just not the kind of person you want to be outclassed by. I remember when I was working at Mount Rainier National Park, one year we got this teammate, and she was actually quite a bit like Kokoru from the scientific perspective. She was ridiculously overqualified, brilliant, and physically capable on every level, but she was very close to half my size. She was short, she was petite, she was feminine, and I, being the larger and stronger of us when we went out together, I'd always just kind of instinctively, I'd go to pick up the heavy things first. You know, I figured I'm larger, I'll do the heavy lifting. But no, she would like politely, without making a big deal out of it, but just kind of zip around me to pick up the heavy stuff first to assure me that she was going to do her share. But there's a sort of instinctive... It's not even a protective sense. It's a sense that as the larger, stronger being, you want to fill in the part of the work niche that's more suited to you. And I think a lot of these smaller, petiter people, they learn to compensate that to prove their worth, to make sure that everybody knows they're not riding on that instinct. Anyway, Kokoru comes in, and she just kind of shames everybody with her raw kaiju slaying ability and her ability to merge with the suit. But each in their own way, all of these main characters had that. Now, of course, Kafka went in pretty humble, but he still got humbled further. Reno was just emotionally smacked around from the get-go. His test with the suits came out perfectly average. He got shown up. Even though he didn't have Kafka's complete inability to draw out the power from the battle suits, he was still so low-powered compared to the rest of the candidates, Reno was, that Reno wasn't sure that he was going to make the application, let alone Kafka. And Reno had to use his brain really hard just to maintain his position in the application process. Then you have even Kokoru of course, Kaiju number 9 showed up and smacked her around a bit. So you just have this running theme of these big fish that came out of their little ponds and get thrown into the ocean, and they just suddenly realize that they're now in a much bigger ocean, and everyone around them has capabilities, has skills, has something to bring to the table that just shines compared to themselves. And this is just a beautiful dynamic, and it really, really gets focused on in this chapter. Matsumoto takes the storytelling lens and focuses it in on the two main characters of this chapter and what they're having to deal with. And you have the now hyper confident Reno, who is 100% myopically focused on getting strong enough to protect and take care of Kafka. And it looks like, we're not sure yet, it looks like he's getting his butt handed to him in a very interesting way. And you have other characters who are just having it driven home to them, spikes through the ego style, that they're just not all that in this bigger world, that they have so much more work to do, so much effort they have to put in to catch up, and it still might not be enough. And that is something that, well, to be honest, we all have to deal with. We want to do things. I wanted to have certain physical accomplishments in my life, kung fu, sports, and you reach a point where you're trying and you're trying and you're trying, and you realize you'll never be able to run with the pack that you want to run with. And so certain dreams, they either get shelved or modified severely because I do not have the physicality to do certain things. And I think that really speaks to this chapter, the way it resonates with people. I've seen the comments that other people are making on Reddit, in other places, and it's just that feeling of, this chapter spoke to me. And that's really, really great in my opinion, because ultimately this is a shonen fighting manga. This is basically robots punching monsters, or monsters punching monsters. And this art style is not known for making these deep psychological connections with their audience. It's a pure adrenaline rush. Pump, wham, punch, wham, bam, pow. And basically what we got in the chapter, in the fights between Kaiju number 8 and Director General Shinomiya. But for all that Kaiju number 8 is a very simplistic, very straightforward, very run-of-the-mill Shonen Jump manga, it really, really reaches into those deep psychological depths. You really get the sense that this is a grounded, realistic story, because it just reflects reality in such a clear light. Yes, we've been there. And it's I think this chapter is also a good example of how this manga speaks to an older generation without sacrificing its communication with the primary Shonen Jump audience. Because to the younger Shonen Jump audience, to those who haven't tried, to those who are still big fish in their small ponds of life, you can see that this would still appeal to them. This is fighting monsters. This is our heroes leaping around the forest. This is the threat of imminent mental takeover. These are all things that would speak to your classic shonen audience, but that overarching concept of the big fish in the small pond finally being let out into the ocean, and realization of adulthood, that you're not all that. You're just one more human in a sea of humans. And it's that concept of, they're facing that wall. There is nothing to justify your selfishness. There is nothing to justify your arrogance. You are just one more human with all of the foibles and weaknesses and the spots of evil and the flecks of good that make up a human being. And this is like the first step towards that revelation, that I'm not all that revelation. And that is one of the most profound mental moments that separate children from adults. And I just think this chapter really speaks to Matsumoto's ability to play to that traditional manga Shonen Jump audience, but still speak to the adult in all of us older folks who grew up on Dragon Ball Z, who grew up on Pokemon, on Digimon. And now here we are, moving on in our lives, starting families of our own, and it's just really sinking in that we are average. and that as adult humans, we have to find satisfaction not in being exceptional, but in finding our niche in the world, in fulfilling that niche to the best of our ability, to be the best us, that I need to be the best me, not have this fantastic dream of being a superstar just to be the best that I can be. And I think that is a story arc that the secondary character in this chapter is going through right now, finding his place, focusing in on what he can do and what he needs to do, and to stop worrying and stressing because he's not going to be running with the big dogs who get out there and change the world. And so I think that's where this chapter is going. Last chapter, a lot of people were wondering, where is this guy's arc going? I mean, he's just being a whiny little brat right now. What is Matsumoto doing with him? And I think that's it. It's that step from childhood to adulthood, to put away those childish dreams of being glorified as the greatest this or the greatest that, and just being the best you that you can be. So that's where I think this chapter is going. What do you think? What are your thoughts? Where do you think that secondary character is going? What do you think is going to happen to Reno? I would really love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below the video. Hit that like and subscribe button if you've already subscribed. Check to make sure you're still subscribed. And peace out, my wonderful viewers. Humans are weird. We took a vote, and humans are weird. I have the data. 2 books in a series of human absurdity. Go check out these short story collections. What will our little green friends think of us when we finally do make it to space? Find out the answer in 2 books of human absurdity. Humans are weird, we took a vote, and humans are weird, I have the data. Available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, and Google Play.